Today I'm in rage mode. You can probably tell why. I've been to a pet shop and one that apparently specialises in both reptiles and fish care. It's a complete joke. So back in December I visited this place for the first time and took this footage. Now as you can imagine I was absolutely outraged. So sure, baby snakes can be in tiny tubs, I can understand that. But there was a massive snake in a tub no bigger than a lunchbox. Now, I don't know too much about snakes, so I'm not sure if this is a normal way of storing them, but yeah, let me know in the comment section below. The other thing that annoyed me was that the leopard gecko was kept in an even tinier tank with one poor excuse for a hide and on sand. The crested gecko was in a tank smaller than my hand, and yes, these geckos were babies, but they need more room than that. And everyone knows that a leopard gecko needs at least 2 hides. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I reported them to the local authorities and they sent an inspector out. To quote her report, she said, "The snakes and geckos that you mentioned are going to be moved into bigger tanks due to my visit and given one more hide." So just over a month later, I've taken a visit to that shop and literally not one thing has changed. All they have done is written a note to reassure the public that the snakes are fine in the small tubs. Now, as I said, I can understand baby snakes being in these tiny tubs because I see that literally everywhere and they are really, really tiny. But, as you can see from these photos today, what's really, really annoying is they haven't changed one thing for the bigger snake or any of the geckos. What's really annoying too is how they feed them. So this leopard gecko had a tiny dish of old, half-dead mealworms. Some of them had turned into chrysalis. Now this shows their complete lack of understanding for caring for these animals. You don't leave food in that long. You don't even give that much food. Uneaten food should be removed and they should be given a proper standard amount. Just not a whole load tipped in there. What's worse is when I went to see the geckos that are kept in slightly bigger tanks. Look how small this tank is. Once again, I don't have big hands. It's tiny. I believe this housed one gecko, but I may be wrong. But look how squished it was in this one hide they had. Once again, they need at least 2, especially if you're going to use a light in their tank. So reptiles need to be able to access both warm hides and cold hides. They can access light and shade. Providing one hide is no good. So these particular caves from, I think, Exoterra, I really like them. They're great for cold hides and moist hide, but if you place a heat mat underneath them, the heat can't travel through it. So either they've got the heat mat under there, where the heat won't travel through, or they've got a heat mat in the middle of the tank, under the light. Now, leopard geckos can probably lay in the light for like an hour, maybe less, because in the wild, if they're getting light in dawn or dusk, they don't need to spend too much time in the light because they have such thin skin. So a leopard gecko doesn't want to lay out in some light just to get some heat because it's taking in too much UVB, if you get what I mean. So even that is messed up. And obviously, once again, it is on sand. Now, I understand from a shop's point of view that this generates money. A small bag of sand in there was £15, okay? That probably only fills one of these tanks, it was tiny. You can get 3 bricks of eco-earth for anywhere between £4 to £7 for the 3, and that will last a single leopard gecko 6 years. You can even get reptile carpet that isn't too expensive. So these things don't generate as much money for a shop. But for a business that claims that they love animals, they're passionate about animals, clearly they care about money rather than proper care. Also, once again, this tank had a whole load of half-dead mealworms, as well as a load of locusts just running everywhere. Now, I was going to mention Petco and PetSmart in this video, but we'd be here all day, so I'm going to do a separate video on them at some point, because I know a lot of you have sent your pictures in from those shops and it's just horrendous. So anyway, these things make me so angry, and I could just ignore it. People say, why does it bother you? But It seems so unethical to me. It goes against everything. Just, it makes me so angry that I just have to speak out about it. What's annoying as well is I find that pet shops are meant to be setting an example, and the only example they're setting is how to kill your gecko in a matter of weeks. It's just, this is what's wrong with pet shops. Now, in all fairness, I will say it's not everyone. I know there are good shops out there that all they want to do is provide the best for their animals. But like even my local Pets at Home used reptile carpet, and I think they have 2 hides, and the leopard geckos are kind of kept out of reach so little kids can't bang on the glass and that. So they're doing really well. But there's a lot that do it so wrong. So what can we do? It's kind of difficult because clearly, even with the authorities stepping in, it hasn't altered the way the business runs things. The best advice I can give you is educate yourself, because if your only reference to leopard gecko care comes from a pet shop, then you don't have enough information to care for a leopard gecko. If you've done your research and someone in a shop tells you, you need sand, you need this, you need that, you know to ignore that and just do what's best. Obviously, if you find a shop assistant that knows what they're talking about, it's amazing. You just can't even believe your ears. You're like, oh my god, you actually know stuff. So yeah, that's a rarity. But just remember that knowledge is power. Now, some people might not always accept my advice, but here's some pictures I've been sent from people who have followed my advice. Now look, I don't profit from any products. If I tell you something's good, something's bad, I don't have an ulterior motive. I'm not trying to sell you something. I'm not trying to take you away from something. You know, I genuinely just care about looking after these animals and making sure they have a really good time in captivity. And if you work in a shop and you're out there trying to change the way these animals are treated, making sure they get better environments, making sure you're giving out good information, then that's awesome. Unfortunately though, there are still a lot of shops that are too pig-headed to change their ways. But all we can do as owners is help spread decent information that will hopefully impact leopard geckos in a positive way. Now, if you want to share this video or any of my others, that's awesome, and that'll help spread the word. Also, you don't just have to watch my videos, you can watch other people. It's good to cross-reference your sort of stuff. I know it can be a little bit confusing with some information out there, but just realise that anything I say comes from my experience, from research, and genuinely being passionate about caring for leopard geckos, okay? It's all about making sure they have a great time in captivity. This is why something like this, when I'm recording this, I'm actually shaking because it makes me so angry, but we need to take a deep breath after this video. It's been quite long. I've rambled quite a bit. But if you've listened to it all, thank you very much. And yeah, hopefully you've somewhat enjoyed this, and goodbye.